You're listening to The Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
Be one of the first to respond if my community ever needs me.
Sponsored by the Alabama Army National Guard. Aired by the Alabama Broadcasters Association and this station.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome into the Gary Harris Show for this Thursday, November 21st, 2024. I'm your host, Gary Harris. Chase Brumfeld is alongside. He is manning the controls, taking your phone calls on the Pinnacle Park at North River hotline at 205-342-9904. We're ready to go the next couple of hours talking sports and more here on the Gary Harris Show on the Big Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM. WTBC. Got a great show on tap for you, as we always do on Thursdays as we're getting ready for another football weekend. I'll run it down for you here in just a second. First, though, I do need to let you know this hour of the Gary Harris Show, as always, is brought to you by my good friends at Alabama Credit Union. Member-owned and not-for-profit, Alabama Credit Union really is just a better way of banking, and I want you to find out the way that I have found out as a member, just how many advantages there are. Empowering our members, enriching our community. That's what Alabama Credit Union is all about. Discover the heart and soul of our member-owned credit union. Find out more at alabamacu.com. That's alabamacu.com, or you can get by and see them at one of their many locations around the state of Alabama and the Panhandle of Florida. Alabama Credit Union, loans for real life. Some rules and restrictions do apply. See if you're eligible for membership. Then join today and feel good about your money and put a little extra change in your pocket. All right. As I said, we got a great show on tap for you today. And before we get to the rundown, I do want to acknowledge, because Chase and I had a long conversation about it yesterday, it's like the boy that cried wolf. The weathermen have been saying, and weather women and meteorologists, let's just say weather people, have been saying for some time, the colder weather's coming. It's coming next week. Well, we were wondering if next week was ever going to get here. Well, it did, because this morning it's officially chilly. Now, it's warming up because of the sun, but it's still cool out there. But, yeah, this morning, when you walked out the door, you got a little dose of it. It was like, yeah, because we have been, I guess, like I said, fooled, continuing to think it's going to be cool. And then you walk outside and it's like balmy and warm and humid, but not this morning. Cool and crisp greeted us this morning, and that's going to be the case the rest of the week and through the weekend. So some football weather is finally here. All right, the lineup for today at 9:30, it's the Coach Ellis Johnson breaking down SEC football. At 10 o'clock, it is going to be D. Orlando Ledbetter with the Falcons report. And the Falcons looking like the Falcons lately. Listen, it's not over. That's a bad division. The Falcons own most of the tiebreakers, but look out, man. They're reeling again, as Atlanta has been known to do for a lot of years. So we'll talk to D. Orlando Ledbetter about that. And then, of course, at 10:30, it's my pal Jeff Spiegel, longtime sportscaster and sports anchor at ABC 3340 in Tuscaloosa. Or in Birmingham and Tuscaloosa. I'm as I am often doing, I'm multitasking. So if you wonder why I'm losing it here, I'm working on something else at the same time. But that's the rundown for today. It's going to be a good show. All right, news and notes. Obviously, we start with Alabama men's basketball. Last night over at Legacy Arena in Birmingham against Illinois from the Big Ten in the C.M. Newton Classic. And outstanding performance by Alabama. They really kind of led this one throughout. They jumped on top early and never looked back. Give Illinois credit. They fought back and got it, I think, down to maybe 8 in the second half. Down the stretch, they went on a run. I think Alabama jumped back out to like 19 and then or 20, and then Illinois went on like a 12-0 run to get back to single digits. But Alabama wins at 187. What's noteworthy here as you look at the stats is Illinois, had they done a better job shooting free throws, could have been in this game. They took 24 attempts and only made 13. Alabama only took 13 free throw attempts, and most of those came late. They only had 2 attempts in the first half, but they made 11 of 13. So even though they took 11 less free throw attempts, they only got outscored by 2 points at the free throw line. Alabama 11 of 34 from 3, Missouri 10 of 30. Overall, Alabama shot 39 of 75. That's 52%. That's outstanding. Illinois shot 32 of 71. And, yeah, the weather change is getting my voice a little bit. You're going to have to bear with me here. Rebounding-wise, Illinois got the advantage, 44-37. Of course, they're a big team. They doubled up Alabama on the offensive glass, 14-7. But Alabama had 23 assists in the game, so did a great job of moving the ball. Now, the most noteworthy aspect of the entire game is Mark Sears. 21 minutes, 1 rebound, 2 assists, no points. How about that? Didn't score. Now, I don't know. They didn't say anything. I forwarded you the Nate Oates audio, by the way, Chase. We may get to that. I don't think Coach Oates said anything post-game other than Mark wasn't playing up to his capability, and when he wasn't playing and he got out of the game late, he just said, hey, let the other guys go, and basically said, don't worry about putting me back in. I don't know if he wasn't feeling well or what. I see we got Robert in Birmingham holding on the line. Robert, I'm sure, was at the game. Maybe he can give us a little more detail. I had a crew over there for WVUA 23, and I'll have full post-game coverage tonight on the news at 5. But Grant Nelson, 21 points, or 19 points, I should say, in the first half. Finished with 23 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists. LeBaron Philon, was in the vicinity of a triple-double. 16 points, 9 assists, 7 rebounds. He's special. There's no doubt about it. Aiden Holloway had 18 points off the bench. Shot it well. Latrell Reitzel had 16. Cliff Amore, 6 points, 6 rebounds. But again, it was Sears not scoring. That just is mind-blowing in 21 minutes not to have a point. All right, let's go ahead and jump out on the Pinnacle Park and North River hotline and talk to Robert over in Birmingham. Hey, Robert.
Good morning to you. Hope everybody's doing well. I think Sears, the thing about Sears not scoring, last year he took a lot of shots that were forced, I thought sometimes, and way outside. But guess what? Most of the time it worked out. He's not really doing that as much this year, so he's not getting as many shots, and we have a lot more players that can score. So, and I think he wasn't hurt. He was in the gym. I think you all saw that on social media. He was in the gym at 2 a.m. last night shooting baskets, so he's not hurt. Number 2, not Stevenson. I call him Larry Bird. What's his name? I can't think of his name. Grant Nelson. He has figured it out. We keep talking about go to the hole, then it'll open up your outside shot. Stevenson did that last night. If you notice, he went to the hole a lot more, and he gets in the flow of the game, and then he's able to shoot better from outside, I think. So, and then Philon's one and done. He's a dog. He cuts without the ball. He plays defense. He's competitive. If he gets his outside shot going, he's going to be, a top 15 pick in the draft. I think he's that good. He does a lot of things that, he's not soft at all. And I'd be curious to see when it comes grind time, like when it's that was almost like an AU scrimmage last night. It wasn't really defense was intense. The game was intense, but there wasn't great defense. I'd be curious to see, like, when it gets really bright and the defenses ratchet up, will Holloway be able to kind of do that kind of performance against because he was a no-show last week against Purdue. So that's my observations. And once again, Saturday night, survived the first half. Venables will have them, coached up big time, I think. And, they're going to take Jalen away, I think, the first half, survive the first half, and get a W and get out of there. Thanks, man.
Hey,
Hope you're doing well.
Robert, real quick, what was Legacy Arena full?
Not probably 80%.
Okay.
It was weird. Online, it said there weren't that many tickets available, and then you get there and you could have sat, mid-row. So that place holds 15, right?
Yeah.
I bet there were 11 or 12 there.
Yeah. So good crowd, but again, Wednesday night, 8 o'clock tip, which isn't ideal for a lot of people. And but yeah, all in all. But no, a good performance. And, you build off of it. I do have this note. Ryan Fowler sent me this that, to tell you how competitive Mark Sears is, the shot meter monitor that they have, he was back here in Tuscaloosa
at 2 a.m.
Yeah, 2:30 in the morning taking shots.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So, I mean, he's fine. Like I said, he's not – you remember last year, if he had 1 inch to go to the basket, he was going all the way, and whether it was kind of forced or not, he did it anyway, and he made it most of the time. Or he took shots from 5 feet past the line. He's not taking as many shots because there's other guys on the team. So he's being less unselfish. But in crunch time in a game when we're, I guess a good defensive team, we're going to need his physicality and his leadership. I was very surprised he did not put him back in with 5 minutes to go, but it sounds like Mark said, that's okay, man. These guys are rolling, let them go. So, I mean, it's a great example for the younger kids, to see a selfless kind of guy. Mark's our guy. He's going to be there in March when we need him. And there's a lot more players. Last night, more guys were scoring than we have been. Once again, I don't think Illinois is a great defensive team. It was a glorified exhibition, kind of, because the defense was just not there. But we had a lot of open shots, but we moved the ball so quickly and we're so fast up and down the court. It's fun to watch, and we play Houston next Tuesday night. And that's going to be a total culture shock. The game won't be as fast. Houston will be very, very physical in defense. So can we shoot well and have a great game against Houston?
Well, that's the case when anytime you play Houston. I mean, that's just that you know what you're going to get. Alabama's played them before. They're physical, right. They're tough, they're hard nosed. But you know what? Alabama beat them out there a couple years ago, and I agree with you on to some degree on it being a glorified scrimmage. At the same time, Illinois is a good team now. Let's be clear on that.
I think they'll be. I'm sure they're top half in the Big Ten. They're very athletic. They can score it. Now, if they can tighten their defense, I don't know if a team like that, as a team like that, can they play a 72-67 game? I don't know if that type of Illinois is built to do that. But we'll see, man. All
right, buddy. Appreciate the
Roll Tide Saturday night. See you,
man. Appreciate the report there from over in Birmingham with Robert, who was at the game last night. Alabama wins at 187. All right, we're off and running here on the Gary Harris Show. This hour being brought to you by Alabama Credit Union, member owned and not for profit. It's just a better way of banking. And we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Phone lines are wide open, 205-342-9904 before we get to the Coach Ellis Johnson on SEC football at 9:30. We've got some audio from Nate Oates as well, post-game last night, and that was a late game, so you probably haven't heard this, but we'll have it ready to go. And some player audio in there, too, I think. It's all kind of mixed together, isn't it, Chase?
Correct.
Yeah, so we'll have a couple players and Nate Oates that we'll get to at some point this morning as they talk about that nice win over Illinois. The one thing I would argue with Robert on a little bit is I think Illinois is a better team than he's given them credit for. I do. I think that's a solid top 25 team. We'll be back after this.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa Thread.
Good Thursday morning. Demolition is underway at the old Tuscaloosa News Building, paving the way for the construction of the Saban Center. Ground will be broken early next year on the interactive hub for education, arts, recreation, and discovery. Click TuscaloosaThread.com for more local news, sports, and weather coverage all throughout the day. It's absolutely free. Don Hartley, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
As much as Innisfree has evolved, it will always be that place to escape and have a good time. Whether it's for a game day weekend, to reminisce on college days, or to create new memories, if you're looking for a good time, there's only one thing to do. Head to the Free at 1925 University Boulevard. And don't forget about the Lucky Lunch Meat and 3 special, Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. Get a meat and 3 vegetables for just $8.49. Or for a lighter appetite, try the Lucky Lunch soup, salad, or sandwich combo. I'll see you at the Free. Tuscaloosa's Old Colony Golf Course is an 18-hole championship layout designed by 1976 U.S. Open champion Jerry Pate. Director of Golf John Gray and fitting specialist Bob Montgomery are PGA certified. Mike Shivitz is the head professional and director of the Tuscaloosa Junior Golf Program. Call today to secure a tee time at the Tuscaloosa Championship Golf Course. Everyone can play. 205-562-3201 Old Colony is operated by Para.
Life doesn't wait for when your finances are in perfect order. It just happens. But no matter what surprises come your way, Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and auto loans. They offer an easy application process and fast decisions so you can stay focused on feeling good about whatever life brings your way. Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans.
Enjoy free shipping to your home on purchases over $25. Your new Academy Sports and Outdoor store is located at 4610 U.S. Highway 280 in Birmingham.
Since 2011, Billy's Sports Grill, located on Main Avenue in historic downtown Northport, has been serving their legendary signature chicken sandwich, award-winning wings, and handcrafted cocktails. Billy's is also the spot to watch all your favorite sporting events with big screen, high-definition televisions in both dining rooms, at the bar, and outside on the beautiful patio. Come by and say hello to Kim and Lisa, the Billy's Management Dream Team. Billy's, good food, good friends, and good time.
You're listening to The Gary Harris Show.
Goal line in, touchdown, Alabama.
On your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9. And streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 9:20. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. Gary Harris and Chase Brumfield. Phone lines are open, 205-342-9904. We're going to stay on the basketball theme, though, since we don't have any calls, and we're going to be busy once we get to Ellis Johnson, D. Orlando, Ledbetter, Jeff Spiegel. So let's go ahead and play, since it's hot off the presses, late game last night. Here's some post-game audio with head coach Nate Oates, Grant Nelson, and LeBaron Filine following Alabama's 100-87 win over Illinois.
Big win. I mean, Illinois is good. They're talented. Got multiple guys that are going to end up playing in the NBA. They're got length everywhere. They beat us on the board, so we got to get significantly better on the glass. But I thought our guys did a much better job defensively. We had a few things we had to get cleaned up, and I thought we played pretty hard. I thought we had a group in there that closed the game out that played pretty well on defense, and got to the rim on offense. There's lots of positives. We shot the ball well from some guys. I think Grant got confidence going obviously early. Barron been playing really hard. Almost got a triple-double with 16, 9, and 7. But, I think the ball moved a lot better. 23 assists, only 7 turnovers was big. So, there's a lot of positives, but a lot of stuff to improve on still.
Jim Dunaway. Grant, what does it say about this team that Mark Sears can have 0 and you guys as a group can go over 100?
I think it showed a lot of Mark's leadership tonight in the huddle. He kind of subbed himself out just because, he saw guys were playing well, and, he knew guys could come in and our depth at the guard spot. I think that shows a lot of leadership, and I think guards stepped up today. Biz and Barron to help us to get the win.
Jack. Grant, you got fired from 3, got it going pretty quick. How'd that feel just to see the lid kind of come off the rim, both for yourself and as a team after kind of struggling from 3 to start the year?
I owe it all to my teammates, giving me confidence. We kind of knew how they were going to come out and guard me and some of the other 4s and 5s. My teammates just gave me confidence all week, and just passed me the ball early, easy, got the ball in their hands quick, and it worked out for them.
Hey, Kelly. Question for LeBaron. When you as guards, again, when Mark's not playing as well, and then you and Latrell and Aiden are able to just build off each other, what's the key there for you guys to essentially build off each other?
First of all, just playing off each other and, just playing in the flow, being able to, play both offense and defense. And, Mark wasn't on the floor, but his leadership was still there. On the bench, he still cheer guys on, try to put us in the right spots and put the chess pieces where they needed to be. And I think he did a great job at that. So I'm really proud of his leadership. And, Latrell and Biz, they, really good shooters, but they really can get in the paint. And, once they get in the paint, it's probably over for anybody in the country because them guys are so crafty, and I just be with them every day, and they be working on their game a lot. So we really trust them when they get in the paint.
Up front, Joe Gaten.
LeBaron, is there any surprise for you the way that people played over the first couple of games in college, and how would you describe really what you've been able to do?
Really just being in the moment. As a young guy, you probably get a lot of nervous or just a lot of butterflies, but I just try to stay calm in every moment and just confidence. And once you get in the gym, once you get on the court, it's just all confidence then.
Right, Joe Gibbon.
right over here, kind of playing off that question. What's been the biggest reason, I guess, for you getting off such a strong?
Just guys putting their trust in me, telling me where to be at the right times, and what plays to make at the right times. Don't try to be a hero and just make the right plays every possession. And I just try to go out and win every possession, and it just leads to me playing very good and very hard.
Baron, when Grant's having the kind of shooting game that he is, how much does that open up the lane for you as a driver when the defense has to respect that?
It opens us a lot because we already knew that game plan coming in, they were going to try to help off of him. So we told him, you just get an open look, just shoot it. We don't care. We're going to try to crash the glass. If you miss, we're going to try to go at the boards. But, he wasn't missing tonight, so that was very good.
Both of the players, Jim.
Grant, talk about the crowd tonight. Obviously not the Coleman, but like I see a lot of Bama fans here. Just talk about them tonight. Yeah, I thought that helped us a lot get this win. First half, second half, they're there the whole time. So it's great to see when we're not at home. Just great to have our fans just all around the state of Alabama.
Last one for the players, Kyle.
LeBaron coach did say earlier this week that Aiden Philly took a different approach to practice. What have maybe you seen from him in practice that kind of translated into the game tonight?
Just being locked in, being able to buy in and just listen, being a great listener and just learning, we all still learning because we all knew, we new to this system. So, we just try to take everything from the older guys and see what they doing, and just put it into our game, and it's been going very well.
Awesome. Thank you, LeBaron. Thanks, Grant.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right. That wraps it up there, Chase? Okay, well, Oates didn't have much to say, did he? It was mainly the players. But, hey, perfect timing because we're going to get to the break here in just a moment anyway. But good insight there, thought from Grant Nelson and LeBaron Philon in regards to the game and how it was played. And Mark Sears' desire to put the team first, I thought, is what came through from Grant Nelson there. Mark Sears was having a game unlike any that he has had since he's been at Alabama. He hasn't had a game like that. And for him to recognize that he's not having the kind of night that he's accustomed to having, and other guys are playing well, like Aiden Holloway and LeBaron Philon and Latrell Reitzel, for him to just say, hey, I'm fine over here. Let's go get the win, and then get back to Tuscaloosa. And he's in the gym at 2:30 in the morning, putting up shots. I mean, that tells you a lot now, and I think it's a great sign for this team. All right, we're going to take a break from the basketball because when we come back, we've got Coach Ellis Johnson, former Alabama defensive coordinator, Auburn defensive coordinator, South Carolina defensive coordinator, Mississippi State defensive coordinator. He's been around. Coach
TBC 1230 with Wyatt Fulton and Matt Coulter, presented by BMW of Tuscaloosa, Pearl River Resort and Casino, Tuscaloosa Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, and Walk-Ons.
If you haven't already, you've got to try Tuscaloosa's unique breakfast, brunch, and lunch concept, Brick and Spoon, downtown Tuscaloosa at Timerson Square. It's fresh food with a Cajun flair featuring a full bar with build-your-own Bloody Marys and mimosas. Open daily, 7 a.m. until 2 p.m. Available for after-hours events.
One bank that puts you in control. Visit chase.com/checking. Chase, make more of what's yours.
Chase mobile app is available for select mobile devices. Message and data rates may apply. JP Morgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC.
Los Tarascos has been serving Mexican favorites like burritos, fajitas, and quesadillas since 1999. Their new location is at 4100 Owen Parkway in Northport. And, of course, you can find Los Tarascos in Tuscaloosa at 110 Skyland Boulevard. The bar areas feature big screen television so you can enjoy your favorite sporting events. Los Tarascos features daily happy.
Better living at First and Main. Visit firstandmaincondos.com or call 205-657-7465. Mention you heard about us on the radio and receive 1 month free rent.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Breezy and colder today. The sky mostly sunny, the high 56. Tonight fair with the low at 35. Tomorrow is sunny day with a high at 52. And for Saturday, a sunny day to start the weekend, the high in the upper 50s and 58. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 47 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Catch every game and every moment right here. This is your home of Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Harris Show, and it's time for the Coach Ellis Johnson, his weekly trip around the SEC in regards to college football. We'll also talk with him a little bit about just his thoughts on the controversy surrounding these playoff rankings and how it looks like it's going to be a lot wilder and a lot more programs upset with a 12-team playoff than with a 4. We'll get into that in just a little bit. Hey, good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Gary.
Let's kind of take a look back at last weekend before we look ahead and mention some of the marquee games. We'll start with Georgia and Tennessee. Georgia winds up winning that one 31-17. Was a tight game. Carson Beck played a lot better than he'd been playing. He threw for 347. Some calls in that game went Georgia's way, but you knew it was going to be tough for Tennessee to go into Athens and win, and the Bulldogs got it wrapped up, and they've closed out their conference schedule now at 6-2, so they're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, well, this one was a tough one to try to pick, and I actually picked it wrong. And my reasoning was that Tennessee defense would travel and be enough to hold the score down, and they'd beat them. But Georgia put 453 yards on them and really, played extremely well on offense. Not a single takeaway for the Tennessee defense. And I really don't know. The quarterback is sort of a mystery to me. I know how highly rated he was. He's starting to remind me of DJ Ungalo, who played at Clemson and Washington State and then Florida State. Something's not clicking. And so looks like a very talented kid, but it's just not clicking. So that explosive offense that Heupel usually has, they're really a grinded out running football team right now.
Yeah, so Georgia is sitting here in pretty good shape right now. Tennessee, and we'll hold that for playoff discussion in a moment. The best game of the day was in Columbia, and South Carolina is really on a roll, but I give Missouri a lot of credit too. I think a lot of people kind of just discounted them, and they went in there and had a chance to win that football game. It was a great football game. South Carolina wins at 34-30.
Yeah, it really was. And I think the key was that they got Brady Cook back. I don't think he was full speed. I think he still is limited. And I think they've got a few players back on defense that played a little bit better on that side of the ball. But South Carolina's defense has been pretty doggone good all year long. And the young quarterback, he may be playing as well as any quarterback in the SEC right now. And he has matured so much over this 10-week schedule.
Yeah, what a game he had. And like I said, they needed it. Florida gets a badly needed win. And, good for Florida. They come out, they make a statement that Billy Napier's coming back. And, they're playing a lot better. They beat LSU 27-16.
I think that announcement certainly maybe helped in the locker room. But the biggest thing that helped Florida is getting Lagway back. He really is that much difference. And his arm, some of the throws he made the other day is just amazing. Gary, they ran 43 snaps, and LSU ran 92.
Yeah, crazy.
And they still win the ball game. And I just think it was the deep balls he hit, and then they had some long runs. Their average per play was almost astounding. I don't know how they got that much yardage with that few snaps.
Yeah, and it's nuts, absolutely nuts. Quick mention on Texas at Arkansas. I think you kind of alluded to, that wasn't going to be a rollover game for Texas at all. The Arkansas would play tough, and they did, but in the end, Texas just, I guess, a better football team. They won that one 20-10.
Yeah, Texas is starting to show a little grit. Their defense was the story of the game, and they didn't turn the football over, and they only had 2 penalties the whole game. That's a pretty good formula for a road win. But Arkansas is a very tough, solid team, but again, just a lot of difference in the talent. And the thing that I think that'll concern everybody else is Texas' defense right now is playing as well as anybody's in the conference.
Yeah, they are. All right, let's get to this week. For Alabama, it's a big one going on the road. This is not a vintage Oklahoma team, but still that's a proud program. Championship tradition. It's a night game. They're coming off a bye. Defensively against the run, they're really good. I think their defensive numbers too, Coach, are skewed a little bit. Passing wise, they're not very good, but I think a lot of that has to do too with just so much pressure on them every week because their offense has struggled that over the course of 60 minutes, they give up some plays. But this is one of those games where Alabama better be ready to go. I think they're obviously a better football team than Oklahoma, but you got to go on the road and get it done. How do you see this one?
Well, they shouldn't have any trouble, but they better take care of business. If they don't go in and turn the ball over or have a bunch of penalties and things that Oklahoma can't control, I think Alabama probably beat them 2 touchdowns. But you've already hit the most important things. They play really good defense. They got the quarterback back after some early season switching aroome. They finally went back to Jackson. I always mess his name up. Jackson Dart. But Jackson Arnold has come back and give them a little bit of balance. But I just don't see this. I don't. It's certainly something Alabama better not go sleepwalking, but I think they'll probably win convincingly.
All right. Ole Miss of Florida. And Ole Miss now has gotten a lot of traction. A lot of folks that I'm reading saying they think Ole Miss right now is the best team in the SEC. But we mentioned Florida playing better. This is certainly not a layup for Ole Miss. I imagine Florida wishes the kickoff were a little bit later. It's 11 a.m. kick, which I think is a plus for Ole Miss in that environment. But is this an upset in the making here for the Gators?
It could be, but I think it's going to be Ole Miss defense versus Lagway. If Lagway's back and he's full speed and healthy, and can finish the whole game without nagging injury or anything slowing him down, it turned into be a pretty good ball game. But Ole Miss's defense has been really good all year, and again, when you're playing on the road in a tough environment, your defense, doesn't affect them, and that's what they're going to have to lean on. But there is definitely a game that would be a heartbreaker if Ole Miss loses it, because they got everything on the line. I'm jumping ahead, but my gut feeling is going to be Ole Miss and Texas in that championship game, and they certainly need to play well and not go down and stub their toe against Florida.
Auburn is they've got one SEC win, one. But I'll say this: I don't know that I've ever seen a team with that record get as much respect as this football team has gotten. They're hosting Texas A&M, and there's a lot of people that are saying they think Auburn's going to win this football game. Now, you and I have discussed the fact that they probably are better than their record, but still, this is a one-win SEC. They're 1-5 in the league, and a lot of people are picking them to win this game over a really good A&M team. Why is that?
Well, the only thing I could see is their defense has been pretty consistent all year round. And they're starting not, they're taking care of the ball better on offense in the last 2-3 weeks. And Texas A&M still has a little bit of a quarterback thing. I think when they switched back and forth early in the year, it cost them the game against South Carolina, or at least was a part of it. And they're just not a team that plays the same way every weekend. So they're obviously a little more dangerous and explosive than Auburn. But I'd say it's Auburn's defense against an offense that sometimes doesn't show up for Texas A&M.
Who do you like there? Do you think Auburn does pull the upset, or do you think A&M is able to go in there and hold serve and get that win before the big game against Texas?
My gut feeling is A&M will still win the football game. I think there'll be too many explosive plays and some key things. And I really think they got a defense that can create a little more pressure on the quarterback than they've had to face in the last 2-3 weeks.
Coach Ellis Johnson with us. There's a lot of heat on Brian Kelly right now, and rightfully so. I mean, this was a team that LSU fans, and I think he even said they thought would, have a chance to be in the playoff and compete for a national championship, and they got 4 losses. And they're hosting a Vanderbilt team that's given people fits all year long. It's at night in Baton Rouge. Kelly better win this one, right?
Yeah, I tell you. He sort of has this temperament that makes it easy for people not to like him. But he's done a good job. I think I read something the other day. He's got the best record in his tenure of any other coach who's come into LSU in those first 3 years or 2 years. He actually won more games than Saban did in that same period. But he might have inherited a little bit better football players, too. To me, Vanderbilt is starting to fade a little bit. They have been for the last 2-3 weeks. I think a little lack of depth. And playing that tough schedule they've played, they're starting to wear down just a bit. And Paglia, is it Paglia? Am I saying it right? Paglia, whatever his name is.
You made good. I'm with blank now.
I can't hardly.
Yeah.
Paglia. But I knew I wasn't right, but I didn't know what it was. But, he's had a lot on him the whole year with his legs, having to take over some games and win it with his legs and so forth. when they didn't have anything else going. And I think it's a little bit of fatigue and wear and tear there. And I would be shocked if LSU doesn't win the game.
Diego Pavia. Yeah, let's get that right because he's had a really good year. Missouri and Mississippi State. And Missouri is still trying to kind of keep their season together. They've had a really good year, and they don't want to let it get away from them. And losing to Mississippi State would certainly, equate to letting it get away from them. So how do you see this game with Missouri? And for Alabama's standpoint, from what I understand, Coach, is that if Alabama wins out and Missouri splits with Mississippi State and Arkansas, that Alabama would win this convoluted tiebreaker as far as best winning percentage among teams in the SEC. So this Missouri game's got a lot riding on it for them to try to kind of keep their season going the way they want it. And for Mississippi State, it's a chance to pull an upset.
Yeah, I think Missouri is a much, much better football team than Mississippi State. Now they've got their quarterback back healthy and got some other kids back in that defensive lineup. I think this will be a convincing Missouri win.
All right, I want to get to the playoff because I think the feeling was you go from the BCS to a 14 playoff, now to 12. You're giving more people an opportunity, but the controversy is going to skyrocket as opposed to a 14 playoff, because in a 14 playoff, there are a lot of these teams that knew they weren't getting in under the scenario. Now you're bringing so many more teams into the mix and so many more teams that believe that they are qualified to get in. This is going to be a mess, don't you think, Coach? When this final 12-team playoff is announced, there's going to be a lot of programs crying foul. It looks like we're headed in that direction.
Well, you could see it coming. I mean, when they first said it used to be everybody was number 5 and 6 was crying, complaining, and pointing out what the committee did wrong. Now it's number 14, 12, 13, all them. It's same old crap. If you're going to create a playoff bracket, but they're going to be selected by a committee, you're going to always have this. I don't care if you go to, let's multiply it and go to 2016, one more week of play. You're still going to have a problem. And I think one of the things that I've noticed the most when I watch a little show and I look at who gets put in these buys, I mean, you're going to have teams that get a bye that absolutely barely belong in the thing to start with. And that is a huge advantage, I think, in college football, more so even in the pros. So, yeah, it's going to be a mess. And right now I couldn't venture a guess who's going to get in because there's so many of these teams that are outside of that 12. Well, not so many, but there's about 5 of them who have a backdoor way to win their conference. Mm-hmm. And if they win their conference, they're in. And so everybody's looking at these overall records and who's ranked in the top 10 and all that. And some of this stuff, if the wrong team wins these conference championships, it is going to be a flat mess. As much as they tried to create a more interesting and fair way to get the teams in there that really had a shot. And, of course, the best 4 teams will be in there somewhere. But if you're one of the best 4 teams in the country and you don't get a bye, that's a pretty tough obstacle to overcome.
The expansion with the conferences, 18 teams in the Big Ten, 16 in the SEC, and still having conference championship games with no divisions, an unintended consequence is something that we're seeing play out. And I know Greg Sankey's already come out, and I know the committee tried to make a statement that you shouldn't be penalized for making it to your conference championship game. And then Lane Kiffin came out with it. I don't agree with his comments. I think if you're in the SEC, you should want to win an SEC championship. But he said basically that a lot of coaches are pulling not to go to the SEC championship game, these 2-loss teams. So my point is, let's say it's Alabama or it's Ole Miss or it's Georgia or it's Tennessee or whoever it is. Texas could even still be. You could have 2-2-loss teams. But if you're a 2-loss team in that SEC championship game and you lose it, could that knock you out of the playoff? And I don't think that would be fair. But I know if you have 3 losses, there's going to be a lot of 2-loss teams crying that they shouldn't be in. They've got 3 losses. So the SEC championship game and other conference championship games could wind up hurting their teams rather than helping them.
No question. And all of these things were as clear as a bell with as much time as they took to study out doing all this. What's going to eventually happen, and I know they're going to hate to lose them because it's a cash cow, but these playoff games within these conferences, when you don't even have divisions, I just see them fading into the future at some point in time because the amount of money that you're going to get from Disney Daddy Warbucks for the playoffs and things, nobody's going to need that championship game money. And I mean, I don't know. It reminds me, Gary, of back in the old days. I know you're not as old as me, but the NIT used to be the big dog in the playoffs for basketball. And eventually the money came to the brackets with the NCAA, and the NIT became a consolation thing everybody went to. But the ACC basketball tournament throughout the 50s and 60s was a harder ticket to get than any national championship playoff bracket in college basketball. And what happened? The big time bracket, so all the money and all that, it just eventually, a lot of these teams don't care if they win the ACC championship bracket now. They want to make sure they're ready to go for the national championship.
Wow. Do you think that they will, we're at 12, when they expand again, and they will, do you think they'll go to 14, or they'll just go ahead and go to 16 so we can just go from 16 to 8 to 4 to 2 to a champion rather than having buys? You think I get some sense, too, that there's, a push to get rid of these buys at some point.
Well, it's a plus and a minus because there's certain teams that deserve the bye. It was what they were hoping, I think, was that the best 4 teams in the country got the bye. And so they get some kind of reward, although they let everybody else in the playoffs take a shot at it. So, it's just hard for me to understand. What I don't think they'll do is expand to another week of play. Somehow they're going to have to come up with adding teams, but not another week of play. Now, whatever that number is, I hadn't studied enough, you would know. Basically, I guess it would amount to put 4 more teams in there and cut out the bye. But I don't know. They can keep tinkering with it, but as long as you got a committee, I mean, when that committee goes to work every day, technically, they're working for Disney. I mean, that's basically what it is. Their boss, their big boss is Disney. And they're trying to get the best entertainment on TV at the end of the year. And some of it's obvious from the play on the field, and the rest of it gets political.
Yeah, listen, it is what it is, and TV's driving all of this. When you look at the last couple of weeks, and it was again this week, you got 4 of the top 5 teams in the playoff from the Big Ten, and Texas being at 3, being the only non-Big Ten team in there. And in the past, we've heard so much about schedule strength, and it matters. And now when you look at some of these schedules, and again, I give Indiana a ton of credit. Man, they're undefeated. You got to give it to them in the Big Ten. And they can't help who they play. And last year, some of these teams that they're playing this year were good, and now they're not good. And you could argue the same thing with Texas and the SEC. They've had a very favorable schedule, and no way around it. And that's part of it. But it looks like schedule strength doesn't matter as much because you see teams that are playing weaker schedules ahead of teams that have played, dynamite schedules, like Georgia, for instance. So what are you seeing from the committee in regard to the schedule strength? And you think that's something that will adjust later? But packing this top 5 with Big Ten teams, what are your takeaways from that?
Well, you kind of summed it up there, and I do think there are 4 legitimate Big Ten teams. But the fact of the matter is that conference is top heavy, and the bottom half of the league is not real good. And so even times when they did play these other teams, they weren't playing that tough of a schedule. Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, and I really think Indiana at this point. And we'll see what happens this weekend. That's going to be a very telltale game when they have to go up against Ohio State. Not going to shock me if they upset them. But even if they don't, if they can't keep it close, then it's going to really, really throw some light on this committee for the way they're valuing these Big Ten teams. But it's hard to criticize Ohio State and Penn State. They got 1 loss, and they both got beat by a team ranked in the top 4. So, now the SEC, I think they're getting penalized too much. I don't know what the heck Notre Dame's doing up there at number 6 when they got beat by a group of 5 team that is now about a 500 team. And it just doesn't make sense to me. They've lost 1 game or 2 games, and they're down there below people like Miami. I mean, Miami's schedule is better. And they got upset by a team that's going up 500. So, that's where I got a problem is they didn't push the SEC teams up there with noticing strength of schedule. I think one reason what you mentioned earlier, some of them, because of the road they've got to travel, could end up with 2 losses at the end or 3 losses at the end. And then they got a problem if they still got them ranked up around number 5 or 6, and they end up with those 3 losses. What do they do? Georgia, for example, they could end up with 2 losses and still be down there around 10 or 11. If they get down to 12, they're going to get bounced by one of these conference championships that are ranked 12, 13, or 14. So there's going to be some manipulating going on in there, because it's not done by the basic NFL model. They're trying to end up with the NFL model, but as human beings picking these teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be wild. Next week's rivalry week, and we'll break them all down, including, of course, the one in your neck of the woods with South Carolina and Clemson. Wow, that could be a heck of a football game. Thank you, Coach.
And spend less time searching and more time connecting with talented candidates. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Serving part-time in the Army National Guard has led to a lot of firsts for me. It paid for me to be the first person in my family to go to school. That education got me to the first day at my dream job, which I can still hold while I serve part-time. That job and the home loan benefits I got from the Army National Guard helped me buy my first house. I also know that I will be one of the first to respond if my community ever needs me.
Sponsored by the Alabama Army National Guard. Aired by the Alabama Broadcasters Association and this station.
Are you receiving unemployment? Your benefits could be at risk. Here's how you can protect yourself and your benefits. Never respond to mail notifying you of a false claim in your name. Never answer a text message asking you to verify your account. And only respond to official Alabama Department of Labor's social media pages. Report fraud at labor.alabama.gov/fraud. Brought to you by the Alabama Department of Labor, ABA, and the station. The Alabama Department of Labor is an equal opportunity employer program. Auxiliary aids and services available upon request to individuals with disabilities. Dial 711 for TTY accessibility.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Breezy and colder today. The sky mostly sunny. The high 56. Tonight fair with the low at 35. Tomorrow is sunny day with a high at 52. And for Saturday, a sunny day to start the weekend. The high in the upper 50s at 58. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 49 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Covering University of Alabama sports, as well as the national and local scene as well. The Gary Harris Show, only on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 9:56, and that's going to put a wrap on the first hour of the Gary Harris Show. Before I do go, though, I want to mention to you my friends at the YMCA of Tuscaloosa. I'm headed over there to get a workout in after my show today. I need it. Was in earlier this week. Gonna get a second workout. I tell you, Chase, I'm struggling to get in there as often as I need to, just schedule wise. But I'll be in there today. I love the Y, man. And the great thing about it is not just the facility and the staff, but the people there that are members. It's so many good people. You'll make friends there. It's just a good community of folks too. The YMCA, man, it's ready for you when you're ready for the Y. 2300 13th Street, downtown. All right, in the second hour, we've got D. Orlando Ledbetter with the Falcons Report. We've got ABC 3340 sports anchor Jeff Spiegel. We'll get to some phone calls. We'll pick up the discussion on a number of topics. And as I said, we'll start it off with D. Orlando Ledbetter discussing the Falcons, who are still in first place in the NFC South, but they're reeling a little bit, as is the Atlanta tradition. We'll have that for you coming up in hour number 2. This hour has been brought to you by Alabama Credit Union. Member-owned and not-for-profit. It's just a better way of banking. Hour number 2 is on the way.
Serving part-time in the Army National Guard has led to a lot of firsts for me. It paid for me to be the first person in my family to go to school. That education got me to the first day at my dream job, which I can still hold while I serve part-time. That job and the home loan benefits I got from the Army National Guard helped me buy my first house.
Or Town Square Media Tuscaloosa radio websites. Fill out the Advertise Here form. Put the power of Town Square Media to work for your business.
WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Monsi Bolaños.
In the NBA, the Warriors cruised past the Hawks 120-97. Steph Curry led the way with 23 points and 8 assists. James Harden had 24 points and 7 rebounds as the Clippers beat the Magic in LA 104-93. The Knicks had a 138-122 victory over the Suns, who were playing without Kevin Durant. Jalen Brunson, 36 points and 10 assists. Karl Anthony Towns, 34 points and 10 rebounds. The Grizzlies outscored the 76ers 117-111. The 76ers are now 2-12. They are in last place in the Eastern Conference, while the Cavaliers crushed the Pelicans 128-100. Giannis Antetokounmpo had 41 points, 9 rebounds, and 8 assists as the Bucks defeated the Bulls 122-106. Detroit Tigers pitcher Tarek Skubal was named the unanimous AL Cy Young Award winner, and Braves pitcher Chris Sale was named the National League Cy Young Award winner. And on the ice, the Stars beat the Sharks 5-2.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Hour number 2 of the Gary Harris Show right here on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC. And we're going to kick it off with D. Orlando Ledbetter, longtime Atlanta Falcons beat writer for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, the AJC.com, and gracious enough to join us every week for the Falcons Report. Good morning, Orlando.
Hey, good morning, Gary. How you doing today?
Doing great. Well, Falcons are going to Falcon. They're limping into the bye. Still in first place in the NFC South, but coming off just probably their worst game of the year. They just absolutely got drug out in Denver by Bo Nix and the Broncos, 38-6. Hard to find very many positives in that game, Orlando.
Yeah, I guess the only thing was Koo making it field goals, but other than that. Other than that, they could just throw the rest of that whole thing away. They don't want to. That's one of those films you don't want to even watch. Just like, okay, that wasn't our team. Let's just move on.
You get to the bye, which is needed, and next week we'll talk more about coming back out, having to play a really good and hot Chargers team. But as I said at the top, the Falcons are still in first place in the NFC South, and they do hold the tiebreaker against the Bucs. They've already swept them, thank goodness. But this is, and you kind of alluded to this, that's the nature of this division, but the Falcons are far from in the house with this division title. They got 5 losses. The Bucs have 6. Heck, the Saints and Panthers are sitting there with 7 losses, probably saying if we can get hot, we can still win the division, right?
Well, yeah, that's no reason to feel otherwise. That's why Mike Evans is probably coming back a week sooner than he wanted to, but he knows that, if they're going to get going, he's going to be a part of it. So, yeah, nobody's ran away and hide, from the division foes here, and that's just, it's looking like what we thought. The weak division, somebody's going to get it, and then whoever is the winner is, could they play up in the playoffs like Tampa did last year and won a game, beat the Eagles, and then, went toe-to-toe with Detroit. That's the same place that the division is in here with, 6 games to go for the Falcons, 7 games to go for some of the other teams.
There's no doubt Atlanta needs this bye. 11 straight weeks of playing football. In addition to just getting some rest for some of the guys, from a coaching standpoint, I know they'll self-scout and do everything, but what are you hoping in the NFL when you go into a bye to get accomplished, other than your players getting a break in terms of getting yourself prepared for this final 6-game stretch, which will tell your fate?
Well, you know what your team is now. You know that your offense has got to carry this team. You can't have a game where you don't score any touchdowns, which they've done twice now. Got lucky against the Saints and won, but against Denver, when Denver scored, you got to match. You got to score. All your money's over there. You spent $180 million on the quarterback, $22 million on one to sit the bench. You drafted guys in the top 10 on that side of the ball. So the blocking needs to pick up and the pass protection needs to pick up. Eliminate the penalties, and you got to score. Your defense, you got to put them in an advantageous situation because, it's not very talented over there.
They knew that going into the season, like you said, by design. They've put the money into the offense. But is it a little disappointing nonetheless that the inability to affect the passer, the opposing quarterback from this Falcons team, it's been going on for years now, and it just the lack of a pass rush and their inability to do anything to get it fixed. How troublesome and bothersome is that and should it be for Falcons fans that they go into every season knowing they don't have a pass rush and seem to never be able to get it fixed?
Yeah, they tried to address it with the Braylon Trice pick, but he wasn't a stud pass rusher. At Washington, he was a try harder guy.
Yeah.
So, they were clearly going to do the let's try harder thing. And, hopefully Ebiketie was going to come on. Hopefully they were thinking the linebackers could get there, Caden Ellis and Troy Anderson. Everything they thought would happen has not happened. You thought you'd get a push from Oyamata and Grady Jarrett. I mean, you knew what Lorenzo Carter was at this point, a steady veteran. James Smith-Williams was an edge setter in the run game. So, but everything they were hoping for hasn't happened. And you went out and got Judon and thinking that would help, and that hasn't helped either. So, all those things need to work here down the stretch. You need to go back to those guys and say, hey, look, we need more. Basically, you ain't going to be here. Pretty much, for Judon, he knows that for a young kid like Ebiketie, it's time to have those tough talks because he's missing too many opportunities and, not showing up on the stat sheet in the right place. So I would just put his feet to the fire. Like, hey, you want to be here in this league, it's time for you to show us and everybody over these last 6 games.
Yeah, Judon, boy, that's just been a disappointment. All right, let's look at this division, Orlando, from the standpoint of are the Falcons going to win it? As we said, they are in a good position in that they've beaten the Buccaneers twice, which could be huge. But they're sitting here 6-5. As we said, the Bucs at 4-6, the Saints at 4-7, and the Panthers at 3-7. You think the Falcons win this division?
I don't know. I don't think so. I did before these last 2 games. Now, if the team that shows up that beat the Philly Eagles and that played the Chiefs tough, just had the Kyle Pitts no call in the end zone. If that team shows up, they will. If the team we saw the last 2 weeks against the Saints and the Broncos show up, they might not win another game.
Jeez, that's going to be interesting. All right, let's go big picture around the league for a couple of minutes before I get you out of here. We saw the Ravens and Steelers play the kind of game that the Ravens and Steelers play, and we saw the result that we've been seeing regularly. Mike Tomlin and the Steelers have John Harbaugh and the Ravens number, and we saw the problems for the Ravens that they have in these kind of games and playoff games, in that Lamar Jackson does not play to the level that he normally plays. And then you have Todd Monken in a game that was never more than a 1-score game, letting Derrick Henry have 13 carries, didn't touch it in the fourth quarter, wasn't in on a 2-point conversion. I see this all around the league. What is it with these offensive coordinators that just try to outthink themselves and be too cute sometimes? I mean, in that kind of game, you would think that would be a game where they'd be feeding Henry the ball, trying to pound.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And yeah, that's it. You hit on it, Gary. He's being too cute and finesse, and it's a power football game in NFC North. Get Derek in there. He's supposed to get at least 20 touches. I don't care if the game gets away from you. You're not down. You don't have that excuse. But you gotta open up some stuff. If nothing else, you open up some play action, easy throws for Lamar. That if they start cheating up on Derek, then throw it over their head to Bateman. But that's obviously wasn't his plan. It was something different. And he did that in the playoffs last year. Going to get cute and try to throw it all the time when you got a power running team. So, he'll find out. Harbaugh and them will get it together because, the AFC, Pittsburgh is like the uninvited guest over there.
Yeah.
It's the Bills, the Chiefs, the Ravens, and the Steelers are like, hey, what about us?
Well, I tell you, a Mike Tomlin coach football team, they never go away. We saw the Bills do probably what should have already been done. The Chiefs, give them credit, but they probably should have already had a loss or two. The Bills took care of them in Buffalo, so now is Buffalo in the conversation for best team in the NFL right now with that victory?
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. I still wish Josh didn't run as much, but, that's going to catch up to him. But that was one heck of a run he had last week. So, you got to put him up in there. He's got a couple receivers now, and the running back, the old Georgia back, is doing pretty good up there. So, yeah, I think that, McDermott knows what he's doing on defense. So, they lost a lot, but they're certainly playing at a high level at this point in the season. They definitely have to be considered Super Bowl contenders.
In the NFC, the Lions, wow, what they did to the Jags was that was football cruelty. 9-1, they've outscored their opponents by 159 points. They've got all the weapons on offense, everything. The quarterback, 2 running backs, wide receivers, tight end, good offensive line. Defensively, even with Hutchinson out, they went out and got themselves a pass rusher. Is Detroit the best team in the NFC?
Oh, no doubt. It's not even close. San Francisco's barely holding on over there. Nothing in the East. The Eagles are coming. That will be your second team, I do believe. And then up north, I just can't, put my arms around the Sam Darnold team as the best team in the North, but that's what it's looking like. Justin Love and the Packers are coming. They don't look great. They're very good. The Rams are, they got their receivers back. They're looking better. But, yeah, as far as just straight-up powerhouses, Detroit 1A and then maybe Philly 1B.
And I saved, how about them Cowboys for last? I watch them play like everybody does. They're the Dallas Cowboys. And, Jerry Jones is a huge personality and Dak's out. But even with Dak, the bottom line is, to me, and I wonder if you agree, and you could say Mike McCarthy's not coaching them well, that just their players aren't as good as the players that they're playing against. To me, it just looks like a bad football team to me, Orlando. I just don't see I just don't see enough really good players on that team for them to compete. They look like what they are, a 3-win team. I just think it's a bad football team. What's your opinion?
Yeah, I do too. I think they overrated their talent. Certainly in the trenches, they got old real fast on the line. They couldn't draft the defensive lineman. Mozzie Smith's playing a lot better this year and so forth, but they needed more than just him on that side of the ball. You got a speed rushing linebacker and a couple corners, but they've been in and out of the lineup. They've overstocked their talent. That happens when you are coming off of 3 straight 12-5 seasons. The inclination would have been to blow it up after you got blown out of the playoffs again. That's probably what they should have did and didn't do it. And now they are finding themselves with the highest paid quarterback, highest paid wide receiver, and now you got to pay the pass rusher. And, how you going to build around that? So they appear to be headed to the bottom of the basement in the NFL for a little while. And we know how that happens is, bad decisions in the draft and bad contracts.
Yeah, and you look at their situation, like you said, they're paying the wide receiver, they're paying the quarterback, got to pay the pass rusher. They lost Tony Pollard and thought that they could bring in Jones sometimes does make some decisions. You thought you could bring in a wash Zeke Elliott to be your running back? Give me a break. But who you think will be the coach there next year?
Bill Belichick is what's making the rounds. Michael Irvin's throwing Deion's name out there, but I talked to my people when I was out in Boulder on Saturday, and they're saying he likes it there. He's looking for a contract extension. that's probably to put some pressure on Colorado to come up with, a contract extension and share with him some of that money he's been making for the institution.
I tell you, though, I'd have a hard time if I were Jerry Jones not going after Deion Sanders, Orlando. I'm just telling you.
Oh, yeah, he'll love that. But it'd be Deion smart enough to know that they're on the backslide.
He may not want to go, is what you're saying.
Yeah, he may not want to go. And he's probably got a better shot at winning the national title at Colorado than he will have going to Dallas. It'll be a show, though. That's all Jerry would care about.
One great thing about the Cowboys, though, is I guess it's just part of, like we talked about before, being the Yankees, being the Cowboys, being the Lakers, is, you're that kind of franchise. Even when you're bad, you're still entertaining. You know what I mean? Still entertaining.
Yeah, no doubt. They're going to talk about you either way. So, that's one of the linchpins of the league. They haven't won anything in 20 years, but everybody still wants to see how they're doing. It's like that's like the NFL's All My Children. They're the soap opera team. They're the reality show team. No matter what, we want to hear what's going on in Dallas, and it certainly helps that the owner doesn't mind going on radio and talking about it every week.
Yeah, what really tells the tale is their point differential. The only NFC team with the worst point differential is Carolina. That's it. Dallas is second.
Oh,
so that tells you all you need to know. Oh, awesome update as always, Orlando. What do people need to know if they want to, get all your information?
Yeah. Our website's ajc.com, and we are, taking a bye week along with the Falcons, but we'll be back with plenty of content for you next week. You can find us on the X at the Orlando AJC. And our Falcons Facebook page is Atlanta Falcons News Now. Thanks a lot, Gary.
Thank you so much, Orlando. 10:16 here on the Gary Harris Show. Wide open for phone calls in the next segment. We've been busy this morning. Let's crank those phone calls.
I'm Tom Osmond, your jeweler at Fincher & Osmond Jewelers. Not so easy to find on McFarland, between Edgar's and Local Roots.
Are you receiving unemployment? Your benefits could be at risk. Here's how you can protect yourself and your benefits. Never respond to mail notifying you of a false claim in your name. Never answer a text message asking you to verify your account. And only respond to official Alabama Department of Labor's social media pages. Report fraud at labor.alabama.gov/fraud. Brought to you.
Place to be. Visit us now to save big and discover why so many are switching to BMW. BMW of Tuscaloosa. Take your dreams for a drive.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Breezy and colder today. The sky mostly sunny. The high 56. Tonight fair with the low at 35. Tomorrow is sunny day with a high at 52. And for Saturday, a sunny day to start the weekend. The high in the upper 50s at 58. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 53 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
The flagship station for Alabama Crimson Tide sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 10:21 back here on the Gary Harris Show. Where are those phone callers at this morning? Let's get going. Let's get some conversation going. There's got to be a lot of Alabama fans that are a little bit nervous about this Oklahoma game, because I am. Even though I got Alabama winning at 31, I think I had it, I'm tottering inside of 31-10, 31-13, something like that. But I'm still nervous because of what I saw in Nashville, Tennessee against Vanderbilt. I'm still nervous because of what I saw in Knoxville, Tennessee against Tennessee. Those performances make me nervous. Now, I also saw what Alabama did to LSU in Baton Rouge. And I've seen this Alabama team in the last 3 games really kind of manifest into a really efficient, powerful football team. And I hope that's what I see on Saturday night. But I'm nervous going on the road, going to a program with the tradition of Oklahoma. Bama better be ready. All right, let's jump out on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline, 205-342-9904. And welcome Franny into the show. Hey, Franny, what's going on, man?
Hey, how you doing?
Doing well, thank you.
Good. Just want to wish you and everybody a happy Thanksgiving. And I got my Thanksgiving present a little early last Sunday with the Bills beating the Chiefs.
Boy, that as I said earlier on my show, Bills are a really good team, but that had been coming for a while. I give the Chiefs a lot of credit, man. They won 2 Super Bowls in a row. They got to 9-0, but they should have already lost a game, and it kind of caught up with them. And you go into Orchard Park, New York, to play the Bills and that football team, and some of the stuff that they had gotten away with. They didn't get away with. And right now, of course, we've seen this from Buffalo before, Franny, as you know.
Oh, yeah.
And, They got to get it done in the postseason, but they look like a really good team right now, man.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know. We've only played Kansas City 3 times in the Patrick Mahomes era. The first time there was no fans in the building because of COVID. Second time was the playoff game last year. So that was the first time the Bills fans got to enjoy Kansas City losing in person. So that made a little difference, too, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But there'll be a 2 or 3 seed, probably. Kansas City will still be the 1.
Well, maybe not. I mean, there's enough football left. And I'm just going to tell you this. I got a lot of respect for Andy Reid, obviously. Why wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Got a lot of respect for their team, for their quarterback. But this is not a vintage Kansas City team in the sense that with the injuries, offensively, they're not explosive right now, Franny. They're just not. And you can say what you want about them being the Chiefs and being able to and they have found a way to win. But right now, I don't see that as a team that is going to run the table. I think they're going to have some more losses. And when you look at the Bills with only 2 losses and the Chiefs right now with 1, I tell you, too, the Chiefs better watch out. The Chargers are coming in that division now. I'm just going to tell you.
Yeah, now they do have a game left with the Chargers.
They do. They have one left for the Chargers. Now, granted, obviously they get the Panthers this weekend, even though I want to see Bryce Young play well. They've got the Panthers and the Raiders the next 2 weeks. But then they've got the Chargers. They've still got the Texans. They've still got to go to Pittsburgh. And they've still got to go to Denver. So, and Denver's had them beat in Kansas City. So I could see this Chiefs team losing 2 or 3 more games, which would then open it up for Pittsburgh, open it up for Buffalo, or even possibly the Ravens if they got hot. Somebody else in the AFC or the Chargers to have that number 1 seed. So I don't think it's a given that Kansas City's going to have the number 1 seed.
I think the ceiling for Buffalo is 14-3. They've got San Francisco and Buffalo at the Rams, a game at Detroit. It's probably the one they're going to lose. Yeah. But then they've got 2 games with the Patriots and a game with the Jets. So they could go 14-3 and see. But I don't know. See, the number 5 seed is going to be Baltimore, because I think Pittsburgh's going to win that division.
Yeah, it looks that way.
And then 5 plays 4, and then that plays 1. It might be better for Buffalo to sit at 2. That way you don't have to beat Baltimore and Kansas.
Yeah, that probably would be better. But the problem is, I think if they go 14-3, I think they're going to be the number 1 seed because they'll have the tiebreaker against the Chiefs. And I think the Chiefs are going to lose 2 more. So, but I see what you're saying. Just from setting it up in the playoffs, you might not want to be the number 1 seed.
But here's the thing with Baltimore: they could lose to Houston. They could.
Oh, listen. The right now, Baltimore is one of those teams. They can beat anybody, and they can lose to anybody. I mean, they're we keep holding them up there, and I do too. And I think their talent level is, but they got 4 losses, man. They've lost 4 games. I mean, it isn't like they're 9-2 or 10-1. They're a 4-loss football team, and defensively, they're not what they've been up front. That's the biggest difference in Baltimore. The back end, I still think is okay, even though they've given up plays, but their lack of physicality on the front. Defensively has hurt them. Offensively now, when they should not have happened to them what happened to them in Pittsburgh. They should never be held in the teens. There's too much talent there. There's too many playmakers. That's concerning if you're a Ravens fan, and that Derrick Henry only touched the ball 13 times. Are you kidding me? And, I tell you a team that's interesting. While we're out, of course, I love talking NFL. Just what a fine line there is between possibly winning your division and not even make the playoffs. I really believe this, Franny. The Cincinnati Bengals are a really good football team, and they're 4-7. But that goes to show you 3 or 4 plays the other way, and that's probably a 8-3 team.
Illustrate your point, we lost to Houston on a 59-yard field goal, but we beat Miami on a 61-yard field goal.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to in this league sometimes. It's just a bounce of the ball. You look at the Broncos at 6-5 and in third place in their division, but they had Kansas City beat and couldn't execute a field goal at the end of the game. So it's going to be wild down the stretch here. I think that I think the one team to me, because I think the AFC with the Bills, with the Chiefs, with the Steelers, even the Chargers, I think in the NFC, and I like the Eagles, I think they're coming, but I think the Lions are the one team that in their conference, in the NFC, I think it's Detroit and everybody else. I really do.
That's why I said when going over the Bills' schedule, if they were going to lose a game,
that'd probably be
at Detroit, that would probably be the one, but then maybe that'll be a Super Bowl preview. Who knows?
You never know. Hey, great stuff, Franny.
Have a good Thanksgiving.
Thank you. You too. All right, let's get to George in Macon. Good morning, George.
Hey, how are you doing?
Doing well. Good to hear from you.
Good talking to you. Last week I think Bobby Allison passed away.
He did?
I wanted to tell you a quick little story.
Yeah, please do.
I was raised in Birmingham, and my dad was a dentist. And we're NASCAR fans. We went to Talladega a bunch of times, but Bobby Allison, my dad said, he's coming in tomorrow, to have a root canal done. And he said, "You want to come meet him?" And I said, "Sure." And he picked me up, and we met Bobby Allison. Nicest guy you'll ever want to meet. I mean, here he is. His tooth was hurting him. It was abscessed. And, he said, "Well, how you doing, George? Great meeting you," and this, that, and the other. And then he said, next time, I'm in a race and you go to it, I'll show you around. And it just so happened a couple of years later, I lived in Daytona for a couple of years. And I went to Speed Week. A buddy of mine, would work the newspaper there. He says, "Let's go to Speed Week." And this was like, Speed Week lasted a couple of weeks. And the week before, he says, "George, we're going to go, see the cars and this, that, and the other." I said, "Great, great, great." And so it was like the week before the race, and we went, to the pits and all that sort of thing. And Bobby Allison saw me, and he remembered me and came up to you. "Hey, how you doing, George?"
Wow.
I said, "My goodness gracious, that's pretty darn cool."
Yeah, that is.
And he said, "Let's sit down." And we sat down on some tires, and Cale Yarborough went by. "Cale, come meet George." A couple of the other races came by. "Come meet George." But I thought that was, that's how friendly and nice that he was. And it saddened me so much, all the tragedy that he had, towards the end of his career with Davey down in a helicopter crash, and I think he had another nephew that was down in a crash. But that's just a story that when he passed away, I tried to call in, and I had to go here and there, so I couldn't call you to tell that story. But I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome, and I had the chance to meet Bobby as well, and everything you said, I echo. Just a class act, the entire family. Bobby's nephew. His brother Eddie's youngest son, Jacob, worked for me at the TV station for a while.
Really?
Yes, sure did.
Wow.
And was in broadcasting for a while, and then went to Jocks. He's now out of broadcasting, but so I got to know the family fairly well and got to go over to their old shop in Hueytown. And even after they moved to operations to Charlotte, they still had the shop there, and got to look at the hub of where it all used to happen. But you're right, just a great, racing aside, just like you said, a class act, the entire family. Bobby, Donnie, Eddie, their sister, all of them. So he's going to be missed. Hey, thank you, George.
Okay, thanks for taking my call. And so you're going to be doing the trivia tomorrow?
Yeah, we're going to do the trivia tomorrow. We'll have the Bama football trivia tomorrow, and going to give away. I think it's the Let me look. Tom just sent me a pic of the. Yeah, we're going to give away Bryce and Devontae, Pride of the Capstone 2. And it's it's a really, really nice full-size print with Devontae on one side and Bryce on the other, and that remarkable connection that the two of them had, and when they both, of course, won Heisman trophies. So that's pretty cool.
And also, don't be nervous about Saturday. We are well synced now. Before, when we played Vanderbilt in Tennessee, we hadn't quite come together yet, and you couldn't make adjustments quickly and smoothly as we can now. So I think I'm expecting a great finish by the Tide.
I hear you, George. All right, thank you, sir. It's 10:33, and Jeff Spiegel was gracious enough to give me a little bit of notice. He's had something come up. He's not going to be with us, but Johnny Cognan is gonna step in.
Making a comeback, I think.
Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen Report.
365, 24/7. You'll find road and utility crews, tow trucks, law enforcement, and first responders working along Alabama's roadway.
We're making improvements and helping our communities stay connected.
We're working hard to make sure you're safe on the road. Now we need your help to make sure we're safe too.
Alabama's Move Over law requires you to move over a lane when you see flashing lights on the roadside. And if you can't safely move over, please slow down.
Visit DriveSafeAlabama.org. Brought to you by the Alabama Department of Transportation, Alabama Broadcasters Association, and this station.
The Alabama Securities Commission protects you from financial fraud. Anyone asking you for investment money must be licensed. You're careful with your money. Fraudsters aren't. Before you invest, call our hotline at 1-800-222-1253 to verify the licensing of the person making an offer and the product. Don't lose your hard-earned money. Learn to protect yourself at asc.alabama.gov. Paid for by the Investor Protection Trust and brought to you by the Alabama Broadcasters Association and this station.
Serving part-time in the Army National Guard has led to a lot of firsts for me. It paid for me to be the first person in my family to go to school. That education got me to the first day at my dream job, which I can still hold while I serve part-time. That job and the home loan benefits I got from the Army National Guard helped me buy my first house. I also know that I will be one of the first to respond if my community ever needs me.
Sponsored by the Alabama Army National Guard. Aired by the Alabama Broadcasters Association and this station.
Serving part-time in the Army National Guard has led to a lot of firsts for me. It paid for me to be the first person in my family to go to school. That education got me to the first day at my dream job, which I can still hold while I serve part-time. That job and the home loan benefits I got from the Army National Guard helped me buy my first house.
Northport, just before Carroll's Creek Baptist Church. Sponsored by Edmondson Deer Processing, Tuscaloosa Tractor, Irvin's, Paul's Feed and Seed, and Anders Hardware.
You see him on WVUA 23 covering sports and on Tider Insider TV on Tuesday nights. Don't miss a minute of the Gary Harris Show. Weekdays from 9 to 11 on Tide 100.9.
All right, 10:37. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show, and we talk about it often. Doing a 2-hour sports talk radio show, it's fluid. You got to be able to pivot, and Johnny Cognan is stepping in for his boss, Jeff Spiegel, just like a good pinch hitter does. He's stepping up to the plate and going to hit it out of the ballpark for us. Good morning, Johnny.
Good morning, Gary. You forget I'm a Red Sox fan, so if I'm pinch hitting, I'm probably striking out.
Yeah, well, you're not going to strike out today. Jeff unable to be with us, but got in touch with Johnny, and Johnny from 3340 going to step in to do the slot. Let's start out with some football, and we'll start with Alabama, of course. The last 3 games, Johnny, I know one of them was Mercer, but still, that stretch against Missouri, LSU on the road, and Mercer has been dominant football. And now they're 2 wins away from what we believe probably will be a spot in the SEC championship game. What do you see from this Alabama team right now? And do you see them being able to finish it out and get to Atlanta and win the SEC championship?
No, Gary, I think the good vibes started after the LSU win. However, I think people really underestimated how impressive the 34-0 shellacking of Missouri was.
I agree.
As we've seen now how Missouri's a really, really good football team that's been in every game with every good team they've played, with the exception of Alabama. And I think a lot of fans kind of had a bitter taste in their mouth coming off 2 of 3 losses to Vanderbilt and, of course, Tennessee. So when they won 34-0, I mean, you're as tuned into this program and this fan base as anybody. I kind of sensed a malaise, kind of a like, oh, well, like this is what they should be doing. I don't think people realize what a dominant effort that was defensively and just how much pride that defense specifically had in making sure that they'd shut that team out with Kane Womack putting the starters back in on the goal line. And then with LSU, it really is kind of the Jekyll and Hyde version of Jalen Milroe and what he is truly capable of when he turns it on and has the game that he's capable of, and that's Heisman caliber quarterback play. The frustrating thing is we don't see it all the time. And that's not to say that he's the reason that they lost to Vanderbilt. I thought the offense actually was sneaky okay in the Vanderbilt game. That was one of the more bizarre time of possessions defensive performances we've seen from an Alabama team, at least since I've been watching the Crimson Tide. And then defensively in LSU, they also did a fantastic job of making Nussmeier's life hell. And Gary, going back to that LSU game, at the beginning of the half, obviously everyone remembers the final score, and it was a blowout, and that place was near empty beginning in the fourth quarter. But if Lawson doesn't come up with that interception in the end zone, I think the complexion of that game is completely different. So it's a few plays here and there that made the LSU game a blowout, and I think the dominant performance against Missouri flashed what the defense is capable of. LSU flashed what the quarterback is capable of, and when they're in perfect harmony, this is a national championship caliber football team, and Alabama's going to need those two to be in perfect sync if they're going to want to go on a run here come playoff time.
Yeah, you stated that well. Any concerns, though, because you mentioned the LSU game, but the road games at Vanderbilt and at Tennessee, they did not play well in either one of those games. And now you're back on the road against a proud program that's having a down year, but it's a nighttime game there in Norman, and you know ABC, that they're going to really rally here and say, hey, this is a chance to change the trajectory of our season. How much concern is or do you have that we'll see the Alabama that played in Nashville and Knoxville and not the one that played in Baton Rouge?
Well, Gary, I don't think the defense is going to have any issues. This Oklahoma offense, I don't think is very good. But, however, the Oklahoma defense, I think, is probably one of the stronger units in the conference, and they don't get a lot of credit for it. The only Oklahoma game that I watched start to finish this year was that primetime ABC game that they played against Tennessee. And Nico, for Tennessee, I'm not even going to try to say the last name, he had a pretty tough time. It was the defense for Oklahoma that was able to give them fits. So if you ask me, back to your question, is there any concerns I have with Alabama, is I'd like to see them run the ball with the running backs. I mean, going back to spring practice, Jam Miller told me he thinks they got the best running back room in the country between him, between Justice Haynes, and obviously we've all seen what Richard Young can do in cleanup time and garbage time. He's proven that he might be as good as both of those backs. So I'd like to see the offense scheme some like actual runs. Not to say that I don't love when Milroe gets to the edge and takes off for 25, 30 yards, and especially we all loved what he was able to do against LSU. But I'd love Alabama to be able to run the ball effectively with their running backs. They obviously have a fantastic offensive line. That left side of the line right now between Proctor, Booker, and then obviously the center Brailsford is NFL caliber now, and you could see all three of those guys playing on Sunday at a high level. So I'd like to see Alabama commit to running the ball to the left.
Yeah, I would too. Let me give you a little tidbit on Nico. This is what you know. You know me, Johnny. I'm often wrong, but never in doubt. I don't know if it's the way you say it or not, but I just say it with authority. Nico Iamaleava. That's all. And I just say I say it like it's right, and whether it is or not, I just spit it out. You know what I mean?
When I used to umpire when I was in high school, I would umpire Little League games, and I was told by a kid a few years older than me, they go, if you don't know if it's a ball or a strike, just say it loud, say it with confidence, say it with authority, and somebody will believe that. That's right. And you
just move on to the next pitch. That's kind of like you do with his name. All right, let's talk about Auburn for a moment and I had Ellis Johnson on earlier. We kind of discussed this. Auburn's 1-5 in the SEC. I mean, we're 1-5. We're not talking about 2-4.
Bad.
You know, we're not talking about 3-3. We're talking about 1-5. Yet, and maybe it's because they've had so many close games and people see the talent. I don't know that I've ever seen a 1-5 SEC team get as much respect as Auburn is getting, to the point now where I see a lot of people that are picking an upset on Saturday night at Jordan-Hare against the Texas A&M team that's in the hunt for Atlanta.
Sure.
What do you make of it?
I certainly don't see it for the sole reason. I think a lot of people are still in love with what Auburn did 2 years ago against A&M when they were riding that Cadillac Williams high, and that was not a very good A&M team under Jimbo Fisher leadership that there were fractures in the foundation of that program. Now, I said to Freeze on Monday when I was down there for the presser, I go, and they hired Mike Elko. They certainly didn't win the day with the sexy hire. No one was doing cartwheels in College Station for a solid coach from Duke. But I'll tell you what, Gary, that guy has brought in a level of backbone and toughness to that A&M football team that I don't think they've had for quite a long time. And this is a guy who, with the exception of that Notre Dame game earlier in the year, we'd be looking at A&M as a legit playoff team. And if they can pull off the win at Auburn and then they can go and beat arch rival Texas in a few weeks, they're not only going to Atlanta, I believe they're going to the college football playoff as well. And Auburn is not particularly sound on either side of the ball. They had a field day against UL Monroe, throwing a Cam Coleman, throwing a cornerbacks that will be working at Home Depot or Lowe's. Nothing against that, but you know what I mean? Like, these aren't high caliber NFL corners that they're going to see this week. And Gary, I don't need to tell you the voodoo gypsy magic that's inside Jordan Hare Stadium. So would I be shocked if Auburn found a way to win that game? I wouldn't be shocked if Auburn found a way to win any home game, but I'm certainly not picking them. They kind of got a lame duck quarterback in Peyton Thorne, who I thought last week Freeze was going to pull the plug on. Now, the thing with Auburn's quarterbacks, between Walker White, Holden Geriner, and Hank Brown, you don't know who's the backup every week. Obviously, they started Hank Brown for 2 games this year. We thought, okay, this is going to be the launch to the next era. They're going to go with the young kid. He throws a billion interceptions in one game in the first quarter. They yank him. They go back to Thorne. And then when they pull Thorne after the blowout win last week, in comes Walker White, the talented freshman, who I'll tell you what, Gary, you want to talk about the prototype of a quarterback and a kid that, quote-unquote, looks good in shorts and looks like he can make all the throws? Walker White has the body and the stature of a future NFL quarterback. So can he play? Well, that's to be seen. But it's starting to look now if Thorne's not the guy, that Walker White would probably be the next up. And we'll see if Hank Brown hits the portal or what, because he does not seem to be in good favor with that offensive staff at Auburn with Hugh Freeze.
Texas is a good team. I don't think there's any doubt about that, and you'd agree with me on that. Sure. But, sure. And here they are again. They catch Kentucky at home. They have had, again, I kidded, and I've gotten some calls about it. I didn't mean it literally, but it's almost like Chris Del Conte, the AD, was in the room with the SEC schedule makers and said, we want this game, this game, this game. I mean, it's been laid out beautifully for them. And they had a game against Georgia at home and got handled. They're a good team. But are they a great team? Are they a product of their schedule as much as anything else? I mean, we kind of think initially the win at Michigan looked like a great win. We propped them up there. We said that, I think they're like just about everybody else in this league. I think that they can win and they can lose. What do you make of Texas?
I'd be lowercase I impressed with what I see out of Texas this year. Obviously, Sarkisian, you knew the offense was going to be good. I don't know if there's a single big-time quarterback in college this year that hasn't had a few games where you're left scratching your head. Rather that be Jalen Milroe, rather that be Carson Beck, rather, of course, it be Quinn Ewers, who at one point was benched for Arch Manning in that Georgia game. Now, the only reason I'm still taking Texas very seriously is because I think they could, in any given night, put up 50, 60 points. I think the offense is that talented. I think the offensive line from Texas is better and in better repair than we've seen in past years, where I feel like that was a real negative for them. On the defensive side of the football, there's still plenty of questions. Obviously, the win at Michigan looks a little overrated at this point because we know what Michigan is. Michigan's a bottom barrel Big Ten team this season. And then, obviously, they're at home against Georgia, but I still, despite the 2 losses, have probably more respect for Georgia than almost any team in this conference. I still think Georgia's still one of the standard bearers in the conference. So, although they did not look impressive in that game at all, and Quinn Ewers looked lost at times, I'm not gonna say, ooh, Texas isn't playoff caliber because they lost to Georgia by 2 scores, albeit at home. But Gary, there's something about Texas and Austin that the SEC has never had before, where it's a real Hollywood feel in the sense of there are stars in the stands. The city of Austin has become so transient, and so many people from across the country have come to live there, where Texas has almost become the USC of the early 2000s of the SEC is the way I would do it. So there are a lot of distractions down there. It's not like one of these small SEC college towns where it's all ball and the coach has complete control. Texas is a circus, and Austin is an awesome town. I love going there. but it certainly doesn't give the vibe of a traditional SEC campus. So I feel like they're always dealing with a lot of external factors down there. And as much as I love Steve Sarkisian, I don't necessarily think it's football 24/7, 365 down there. That's just my takeaway from somebody that's lived in that state, covered that team for a short time, and have been there. It's a different vibe.
Johnny Congdon, ABC 3340, pinch hitting for Jeff Spiegel this morning. All right, final question is on the playoff and the situation with the SEC championship game. Sankey's gotten out in front of it. We heard some, the committee chairman say, it should be a reward getting a conference championship game. Yet, and I know as well, if you got a 2-loss SEC team in that conference championship game that loses, and they go to 3 losses, there's going to be a lot of 2-loss teams saying they shouldn't be in. And it's not just the SEC. This is an unintended consequence. I know there was a ton of money made on these championship games, but these being in the championship game, although I know Alabama wants to get there and win that 31st SEC title, but getting to that championship game and losing it could really hurt you.
I'll tell you what, Gary, for anybody that has a strong take on this, as in, they absolutely don't want to play because if you lose, you're going to get knocked out, or someone that says, hey, there's no problem because if you get in and you lose, you're still going. You don't know what's going to happen. This is the first year of this. This is what makes this fun. This is what makes this entertaining and energetic because we don't know what's going to happen. Now, if you're asking me, I think a 3-loss Alabama or a 3-loss Georgia is better than, let's say, a 1-loss Indiana. If Indiana goes and loses to Ohio State next week and then wins out, I still don't think that 1-loss team of the Big Ten, especially when it's Indiana, is better than a 3-loss SEC team. But as far as a fan, let me remove myself from my SEC bias. I would love to see the conference championship games have some meaning, even if it means one of those 3-loss teams getting knocked out, because if not, why am I watching as a casual fan? Obviously, I cover Alabama and I cover Auburn, so I'm going to go and I'm going to be interested and I'm going to do my job and I'm going to try to do it well. But if I'm Joe Blow from New York City or Boston or Chicago and I just want to watch meaningful games with consequence, I would love the SEC championship games loser to be knocked out of the playoff because I think it's more interesting and there's more at stake. It does sound crazy to think, hey, you win this game, you're going to get a first-round bye and a top-4 seed, but you know what? If you lose by a point in overtime, you're done. Your season's over. So do I think it's fair? No. But do I want to see the loser that knocked out for entertainment purposes? Yes. I'd be lying if I said no.
Great stuff, Johnny. Filling in for Jeff Spiegel this week, and I know you're going to be busy. High school football playoffs tomorrow night, college football on Saturday, and if you want to give out some information on your social media handles or your website, go ahead and do so.
Sure. Pundit Station, terrible pun. It's been my Twitter name since 2009, and I'm not changing it. And then, of course, ABC3340.com. I'm in the anchoring desk for Speaks tonight at 4, 6, and 10. And then we, of course, have our high school football show Friday night, and then the EOG Wrap, which is our great college football show, will come on right after Alabama and Oklahoma. You'll get to see Kalen DeBoer live, and we'll recap all the day that was in the SEC. It's a great show. Speaks does a great job. Jamie Hale-McCulley. It's a good group we got over there, and it should be a good show. Thanks for having me, Gary.
Thank you, Johnny. All right, it is 10:52, and we're winding it down for this Thursday edition of the Gary Harris Show. We'll take a time out. We'll come back on the other side.
Only here for a limited time. Shop now at Dell.com/deals. That's Dell.com/deals.
Are you receiving unemployment? Your benefits could be at risk. Here's how you can protect yourself and your benefits. Never respond to mail notifying you of a false claim in your name. Never answer a text message asking you to verify your account. And only respond to official Alabama Department of Labor's social media pages. Report fraud at labor.alabama.gov/fraud. Brought to you by the Alabama Department of Labor, ABA, and the station. The Alabama Department of Labor is an equal opportunity employer program. Auxiliary aids and services available upon request to individuals with disabilities. Dial 711 for TTY accessibility.
Serving part-time in the Army National Guard has led to a lot of firsts for me. It paid for me to be the first person in my family to go to school. That education got me to the first day at my dream job, which I can still hold while I serve part-time. That job and the home loan benefits I got from the Army National Guard helped me buy my first house.
597878 or visit dchsystem.com/urology.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Breezy and colder today. The sky mostly sunny, the high 56. Tonight fair with the low at 35. Tomorrow is sunny day with a high at 52. And for Saturday, a sunny day to start the weekend, the high in the upper 50s at 58. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 54 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
The flagship station for Alabama Crimson Tide football.
Alabama touchdown.
Only on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 10:57. That's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Gary Harris Show. Tomorrow morning, it's the TGIF edition, and that means Bama football trivia, courtesy of T-Town Menswear and T-Town Gallery and University Mall. As I said, we're going to give away a Greg Gamble full-size print, and it is a nice one. It is Pride of the Capstone 2. University of Alabama Heisman Trophy winners Devontae Smith and Bryce Young on that print. Beautiful. So we'll give that away tomorrow. And, of course, I'll have my SEC point spread predictions. And, by the way, I'm really proud of this. I fought back, Chase, to 47, 43, and 3 on the year, picking SEC games only. So back over 500 by 4 games. Hope to continue to build on that. The last 3 weeks, I've gone 10, 3, and 2. So not bad. All right. We'll talk to you in the morning at 9 a.m. T-Town Sports Daily is coming up with Wyatt Fulton coming up next here in Chase. And stay tuned for that. Catch me on TV tonight with your local sports on WVUA 23. Have a great day, everybody. Talk to you again in the morning.
Thank you for listening to the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app. WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Monsi Bolaños.
In the NBA, the Warriors cruised past the Hawks 120-97. Steph Curry led the way with 23 points and 8 assists. James Harden had 24 points and 7 rebounds as the Clippers beat the Magic in LA 104-93. The Knicks had a 138-122 victory over the Suns, who were playing without Kevin Durant. Jalen Brunson, 36 points and 10 assists. Karl Anthony Towns, 34 points and 10 rebounds. The Grizzlies outscored the 76ers 117-111. The 76ers are now 2-12. They are in last place in the Eastern Conference, while the Cavaliers crushed the Pelicans 128-100. Giannis Antetokounmpo had 41 points, 9 rebounds, and 8 assists as the Bucks defeated the Bulls 122-106. Detroit Tigers pitcher Tarek Skubal